Welcome to the Science of Gratitude podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Mukanga, and each week we'll explore how gratitude transforms our lives through powerful stories and insights. Let's dive in. Hello, dear friends and family. Hello, everyone, and thank you once again for tuning in to the Science of Gratitude podcast. I have a great friend today. We've met a long time ago in New Orleans in our old church Victory Fellowship. And I thank you, Miss Mary, for actually saying yes to our invitation. So this is Miss Mary Novik, and she's a great guest. You will really see and discover her for yourself. So, Miss Mary, would you please introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Yes, my name is Mary Novik. I was born in Virginia, raised in Louisiana, where, of course, I met the beautiful Valerie and her family. And, of course, Hurricane Katrina blew me over to Dallas in
Mhm.
2005.
Here.
And this is where I started a family and started working with the company that I'm with since I was 18. So I look forward to diving in.
Wonderful. All right. So, yes. So, one question I like to ask my guests is, how do they describe gratitude in their own terms? So, yes, Mary, how do you describe gratitude in your own word? What does gratitude mean to you?
I think gratitude means to me being in the present moment
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the goodness in every part of life, in every season that you're in,
Mm-hmm.
that you can find something to be thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
So just that immediate, like the presence of being and seeing the goodness of God in every aspect, no matter, because you're always going to have difficulty, you're
Mm-hmm.
always going to have different struggles, and it's just a different level of struggle or like, oh man, like, but you can find gratitude in every season. And I think that that's, the way that I look at it is just seeing the goodness no matter what season you're in is that present moment of being grateful and the overall idea of gratitude.
Yes, I like it because you tie it to the present, whereby sometimes, we tend to be grateful perhaps for the past, which is not bad. And sometimes we even hope to be grateful for the future, but
Mhm.
being grateful in each season. Because as you said, no matter what the season is, sometimes the season can be, but you still have to actually work at finding gratitude in the very moment, the present moment. I really love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. So now, please, I would love to hear your wonderful story that you want to share with our audience, your gratitude story. I'll just let you go on. Let's
I
dive
feel
in.
like my life is a gratitude story, girl. Oh my gosh, how far do I go back? Well, you interviewed my sister Naomi
Mm-hmm.
earlier on a podcast, Naomi Novik. And
Yes.
we are from a family of 13.
Yes.
So my mother was fourth of five kids, and she was kind of first generation Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, when they say, man, you're one of 13 and you're a Christian, you're not like international, or were you Catholic? And, I always say, no, my mom, she did not really like hear, I love you. And her mom said, you're lucky to be alive because I only wanted three kids. So,
Wow.
you're lucky to be alive. And she didn't say like, or hear, I love you until she had her first child. Like, so when my grandmother became a grandmother through my mom, she said that
Yes.
he heard her say, I love you for the first time. I
Wow.
think
Your
that
grandma
that's
was gangster.
yes, yes, and I feel like, and her father passed away when she was 16, so she
Mhm.
kinda found God through her neighbor bringing her to church. And
Okay.
that kind of, like, I always say to people, like, you just never know, like,
Mhm.
what an impact you can make on someone's life just at 8 years old to invite the neighbor's kid to church and start to bring them to church.
Right.
So long story short, my
Mhm.
mom found her own path to Christ when she was 8. She decided that, like, later on that she was gonna have however many kids God would give her,
Wow.
to show them the love that she never felt. That every child
Okay.
was gonna feel loved and every child was gonna know how much she loved them in her own way, in her
Mhm.
own path. Obviously, it became a difficult one for her, but she always would say, "One day at a time." And you knew my mom as well,
Yes,
Valerie. It's just like,
yes.
"One day at a time with the grace of God." So my story as a part of that, I'm number 5 of
Mm,
13, and we also have an adopted brother, Curtis,
mhm.
that's 14. And then we also took in homeless people all throughout my childhood, and they were just part of the family.
I'm a
One
witness.
point, there was 26 people living in the house.
Wow.
So, by God's grace,
Mhm,
he pulled us through, all of those things. I didn't know anything different. So
mhm,
I grew up knowing how to love people just
mhm.
the way that they are, and a lot of grace and a lot of, like, just kind of also passivity looking back. Like, we just kind of, like, that's how things were, and we just kind of flowed along the river and
Yes.
didn't really kind of have a certain stand other than our religious stance.
Mhm.
And I think that you'll find, like, anyone looking back on their childhood can say, "Oh, well, now that I'm older, looking back, you know, X, Y, and Z." Like, I could see, like, pinpoints or, red flags, like, triggers, or like,
Yeah.
oh, my mom, like, was just in survival mode all the time because she had
Uh-huh.
13 kids. And
Yes.
that's probably why I didn't have, like, one-on-one attention. But I would say, look, like, in the moment of my
Mhm,
childhood, like, I
mhm,
loved every moment of it. I was
mhm.
homeschooled, I could go run and play outside, and then when I was 14, my first job was working on a citrus farm and just picking oranges and satsumas in southern Louisiana, near
Wow.
Chalmette.
Mhm.
So, and then later on, when I got my driver's license, I started to work cleaning houses. And
Okay.
then, shortly after that, Hurricane Katrina happened. My
Yes.
whole family ended up evacuating to Dallas.
Yes.
And out of that, my sister was actually engaged to my husband's brother. So
Mhm,
2 sisters ended up marrying 2 brothers, and
mhm,
through Hurricane Katrina, I met my husband.
mhm.
I just thought, "Oh, we're gonna hang out, get to know each other. He's gonna be almost like an extended relative."
Right.
And long story short, he's from Belarus, and I had never met anyone like that was Russian speaking,
Mhm,
Slavic, in that community. I had met one person that was an intern. Her name was Sasha,
mhm.
and she was fun and wild and just charismatic. But I just thought, who's this guy? He's like really exotic. I've never met, like a Slavic person before. This is so fun. I just thought he's
Mhm.
like European. And so I kind of quickly had a crush on him just because he was just so different,
Right,
from
right,
what I had ever seen as far as
right.
the, people from New Orleans. We ended up dating for a year and a half. The way that we started dating was because he had just purchased a business,
Okay.
and because his first language was Russian,
Mhm.
asked my sister, or he asked his brother, "Hey, do you think Naomi can help me, write the policy for the company that I just took over?"
Uh-huh.
And she was like, "Well, I actually think Mary would probably be better at that than me."
Oh, wow.
I ended up going with him to Starbucks a few times, and he would tell me kind of what he wanted to write down for the employees that were working, like
Right.
1099 employees that would come on the weekends, contractors, and print T-shirts at sporting events. They would
Mhm,
custom print T-shirts. So
mhm.
we needed to write the policy. So I just sat down with him, and over those few times, we just kind of started liking each other. And he's like, "Man, she would be really useful, and she's cute." And a lot of people say the rest is history, but,
Uh-huh.
I heard recently the rest is the future.
Oh,
So
that's
it's
one
like,
way of looking at it.
we really did start a whole new journey. And I could,
Yes.
when you say, like, tell me a little bit about your story, or like your gratefulness. Like, I think that my story of gratitude is like seeing the goodness of God
Mhm.
and how so many just drastic things had to happen to even, like, I had never met a Russian speaking person before in my life.
Right.
I was born in Virginia, raised in Louisiana, like orange picking, like country redneck girl who was homeschooled. Like, how in the world could I have met like this such a unique person. And on top
Right.
of that, when I was 18, he was 23 and he had never dated before. I was
Okay.
his first girlfriend. I
Mhm.
was the first person that he ever held hands with.
Wow.
I could never imagine that God would just hide someone,
Right.
like, in the shadow of the rock. Almost like so much so that he said when he was in Bible school, he went to a pastor's house and he had told the pastor, like, you know, "Oh, yeah, I'm not dating anyone." He's like, "So have you ever dated before?" He's
Mm.
like, "No, I'm just saving myself for marriage." And he's like, "Is there something wrong with you? Are you gay?" And the pastor asked him that. And
Wow.
he was like, why would it be wrong to not date until you want to know that this person, like, is gonna be forever for you?
Right.
And I just thought, like, I could never think that growing up in an American environment and just the culture, that I
Mhm.
would find someone that had the not enough self-control to
Yes.
not date around and try to experiment with everybody. So that's another season of gratitude, right? I'm
Yes.
constantly grateful for God sheltering him,
Mhm.
and hiding him from everybody else so that he could be pure for me. And I thank God for that self-control. And then, later on, it's like, okay, I'm thankful for my kids. I'm thankful for that season. We waited
Yeah.
5 years and then had kids. So we did
Mhm.
travel a lot and I'm so grateful for that season. So again, I'm all about like being in the moment and
Yes.
seeing and being in that gratitude and being so grateful for the friendships, for the
Mhm.
seasons, for everything that God aligned for us to be at this point. I
Yeah.
think one thing that was a wake up call, which you know about, was that I received very unexpected news when, like, in October of was 2 years ago, so October of 2023,
Mhm.
I discovered that I had cancer in my intestine.
Oh, I did never knew that.
Yeah, so I thought that I had an allergy. I
Mm.
was treating, like, I had, like, gas and just, like, bloating, and everyone said, like, "You need enzymes, you probably have, like, an ulcer or, like, your lining of your stomach is messed up from
Mm.
different types of foods." So I tried
Mhm.
to heal it every way that I could, and it was just, like, making bubbling, like, nonstop, just, like, especially at night when I would lay down.
Mhm.
It was just gassy. And,
Oh,
we don't wanna, like, publicize that, but I would say, like, "Man, my stomach is just not feeling well,"
right.
but it was nothing, like, super alarming. So
Mhm.
I after 2 months, it started to
Mhm.
become, like, painful. Before it was not, like, painful, where I felt like something was, like, stuck in my stomach, and then at night when I would lay down, it would just, like, kind of just look
Wow.
like I had a baby moving in my stomach. And it was just the air that
Mhm.
and the food, like, was just going back and forth in the intestine. And so I started to look at my stool, and after some time, I saw that there was blood.
Oh my
And I was
goodness.
like, "Okay, that's it, like, I have to get, checked."
Yes.
And a lot of people, like, they just keep on putting it off until it is an emergency, right? I could have went to
Mhm.
the hospital before, but I was like, when it's intestine problems, it could be anything. It could be hormones,
Exactly.
it
Right.
could be anything, and anyone that I talked to had said, "Unless there's blood, unless there's, like, an alarm, like, you could go and see somebody, but they're probably gonna do a full panel of allergy tests, you know?"
Mhm.
But as soon as there is blood, then you know that it's something that is, like, I honestly thought it was a ulcer, like a
Mhm.
bleeding ulcer or maybe, like, internal, like, something that was ripped or something. Because
Right.
anyway, they ended up I saw a GI specialist, and they ended up scheduling a colonoscopy.
Mhm.
And when I went down, they put me to sleep. The doctor said, "I'm probably gonna see an internal hemorrhoid because, that's your age, like, you probably just were rough or something because you're running a lot." I was running 3 times a week. I
Mhm.
had just completed a half marathon in October, 2 weeks
Wow.
before my procedure,
Wow.
or actually 2 weeks before the colonoscopy.
Mhm.
And the day that I got my colonoscopy, I had a flight scheduled that evening to go
Wow.
to Cincinnati for the biggest contract in our company history,
Oh
to sit
my
down with
goodness.
Under Armour
Uh-huh.
and discuss like partnership opportunities with different events that they were taking on board.
Mhm.
So when I woke up from the colonoscopy, he was like, "Hey, so we found out what it is. You have a tumor." So much so that the tumor is blocking the whole intestine. It's 90% blocked. And I'm
Oh, my
surprised
goodness.
that you were even able to digest food. Like, how were you not having issues? And I said, I mean, honestly, I think it was probably because I was running a lot and it was just making the intestine move because I would,
Uh-huh.
have very normal bowel movements like every day, even a few times a day. It would just come like, and I think that it was just because my body was moving. But at night, it would like kind of get stuck because I would eat dinner and it would
Mhm.
have a lot of food in there. It couldn't move through. So in the morning, I would go running and then it would move through.
Yes.
So he said, I did do testing. I sent it off to the lab. And my husband's like, "So we're gonna cancel the trip, like we need to go home, we need to rest." And I
Mhm.
was like, "Well, what am I gonna do?" Like, I mean, am I just gonna sit home and sulk, and feel sorry for myself? I've been running every day. I've been doing like I've already been living life with this for the past like who knows how long, and
Right.
I don't feel horrible. So I
Mhm.
was like, it'll help pass the time. Let's just get on the flight.
You
So
did take the flight.
I did take the flight. I guess that's from me being one of 13 and, always just
Moving.
living in the moment, and got on the flight the next day. I mean, my husband said I couldn't sleep at night. I just like went to sleep. I'm like, God, I give this to you. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what this means,
Mhm.
but I'm trusting in you. And I woke up the next day, went running in the cold. It was in Ohio. It was like 50 degrees outside or 40 degrees outside. And I go into the meeting like it was like an all day meeting with the
Mhm.
Under Armour and just like negotiations. And I get the call from the doctor during those like when we were in the board and I stepped out of the
Right.
boardroom and he was like, "Hey, I don't have good news for you. It's is cancerous. So we need to jump on this like right away. I don't know how far it is or if it's spread into the lymph nodes, but it's like the size of a mandarin. And so
Oh,
we're going to
wow.
like do additional testing. We need you to get blood work. We need to get scans." And so like literally like kind of my world was like, like kind of
Right.
just spinning, like you kind of like almost go into adrenaline mode. Like, okay, it's like, when you cut yourself or if you have a loved one that like gets hurt or something, you just kind of go
Yes.
into like, okay, what's next? What
Mhm.
does it mean? Like,
Mhm.
go into like drill mode, like, and
I wish he had asked you where you were, if it was a good time to speak to you.
I mean, at that point I was like, okay, just give it to me. So I walk back into the
Wow.
boardroom. My husband's sitting there in the boardroom and we look at each other. He looks at me. They're just still talking, the rest of the
Yes.
people. And we look at each other and I was like, it's not good news. They say
Oh,
it's cancerous. And I'm like whispering to him, and he
in
was
the
like
boardroom.
in the boardroom with the full of people.
Yes.
And, your mind just kind of like fades from the
Mhm.
room, like,
Right.
whoa. And I remember breaking for lunch and we
Mhm.
went into the lunchroom. They had ordered food and had catering. And the place where we were was one of our regional offices. And we were just kind of quiet, like looking at each other because we hadn't shared with anybody. Nobody there knew.
Right.
And we look at the wall and there is a scripture posted to the wall. And it's be still and know that I am God.
If you think God does not speak.
And my husband looked at that and he read it and he's like, "Mary, look at the wall. The
Wow.
writing is on the wall."
Wow.
Literally the writing on the wall. And he
Mhm.
said, "Be still and
Yeah.
know that
Mhm.
I am God." And
Wow.
we literally took that scripture and used it as an anchor. Like
Right.
we were repeating it and my husband will tell you, he's
Mhm.
like, I repeated that verse in my head
Uh,
thousands, like I couldn't stop.
mm,
It was on repeat for
mhm.
thousands of times, just
Wow.
rolling over and over.
Mhm.
Be still and know. Be still and know. Don't worry. Be still and know. I am God. Like we could use it in any context, in any from all of the angles. Be at peace.
Wow.
Trust in me.
Yes.
Don't worry about your future or what this means. Just
Mhm.
be in the moment,
Mhm.
go through and I was like, "God, I know," and I don't remember what timing this was.
Mhm.
It was probably within the next day that I understood through that "be still and know" scripture
Mhm.
that God knows the beginning from the end, and
Right.
God knew what would happen.
Mhm.
And I had such a peace that I was gonna come out of that on the other side
Mhm.
whole. Like, I didn't know what that wholeness meant
Mhm.
or what all of the steps of the process would be, but
Right.
I knew that I was saw myself on the other side of this.
Mm.
In that moment, I was like, "God, I thank you that you trusted me with this."
Wow.
Because in a way, like, if I couldn't see myself on the other side of that,
Mhm.
God knew that it's for something. And I was
Mhm.
like, "What is it? What
Mhm.
is it?" Like, I don't just think it was like an attack from the enemy. Obviously, God allows things to happen.
To
And
happen.
just 2 years before that, my mom had passed away from COVID, and she
Mhm.
didn't make it through the other side.
Right,
But,
right.
I trusted in God that my I said, "God, your plans are for good and not for evil all the days of my life,
All the days of my life.
all the days." And I believe my story is not done.
Mhm.
This is not the end.
Right.
And that's how I could see myself, like, I was proclaiming my future, and I
Right.
was reminding God that my story is not done, and that this is gonna be a testimony, and I kept on saying to God, like, "I don't wanna, like, brag about this in
Mhm.
the future, like, I don't see this as, like, bragging rights or something, like, if I went through cancer, this is my sob story, like, whatever." No, I see this as, like, God moved me into this trust that was steadfast. Like,
Mhm.
and so from that moment, God lined everything up. Like, it was a blur.
Mm.
I was able to get scheduled for surgery, like, within, I wanna say that was, like, a Wednesday, and I had surgery scheduled, like, on a Tuesday.
The
It
week
was, like,
after?
the week after. Yes, and he was like, "Oh, it's gonna be a month because the robot is, like, scheduled out, it's
Yes.
completely full, we have to schedule it out," and I was like, "Look, I mean, I'm having a hard time sleeping at night because it's just kinda slowly just becoming more and more painful from the
Yes.
time of the colonoscopy."
Mhm.
It was, like, very bloated, and I was seeing blood, and so I
Mhm.
was like, "I don't want this to spread into the lymph nodes if it hasn't already," and they said, "We do
Right.
see based on." I was able to get the
And
CT.
even the size of it.
Yes, and it was on the, like, inside and towards the outside of the intestine, so, the lymph nodes are right towards the outside
Right,
of
right.
the intestine, and when it starts to press up against there, he had seen that there was, like, a number of lymph nodes that were swollen, and
Mhm.
he did say, he's like, "I'm not sure if that means that they are infected or if
Yes.
they're just irritated, so
Right.
we're gonna need to take that out and just see and test them." And
Mhm.
so I was able to get the surgery on Tuesday following the call,
Goodness.
like, Wednesday, like, it was like, what, 5 6 days.
Right.
Like, of the whole,
After
like,
6 days, yeah.
process, and it
Right.
was a miracle that I was able to, from the time of the news to the time of the surgery, for it to
Mhm.
be 6 days to get all of the different paperwork, blood work, CT scan. I had to get in for a CT scan. I was able to get in on Friday. It was Thursday when we were in Ohio. I flew in on Friday morning. I had a CT scan on Friday afternoon. They got the results back on Monday. I was able to get the surgery on Tuesday. Can you imagine, like,
That's
how
that's
God lined
that's
this up too?
that Mary's ridiculous favor.
But I'm telling you, like, I mean, it was like, "Hey, I'm gonna let you see this." Like, yes, I had it in me, like,
Mhm.
it was there,
Oh,
and God
yes.
knew it was there, and I
Mhm.
and I had said this prayer in that short time. I was like, "God, if it's at all possible, if I don't need to, if it's at all possible for me not to have to go through chemo, please
Mhm.
save me from that because I know the effects on the body, it's just
Yes.
so, like, it drains everything
Draining.
out of you." And
Right.
I was like, "You see the beginning from the end.
Mhm.
You know what I can handle.
Mhm.
Like, you know that I'm gonna be like positive, as day to day as possible. But if this cup is possible to pass from me, please take it, because I was like, not my will. I know that it's not your will for us to be sick. And
Mhm.
I know that you have received my healing. I started to play all of the Andrew Womack different like podcasts and
Mhm.
YouTubes because he's
Mhm.
just so powerful in that you just need to believe and see yourself as not God's will and like scriptures. Naomi shared with me, my sister, she shared with me like a list of all the healing scriptures because she has diabetes and she's like, I pray these over my body every
Yes.
day. And I just began proclaiming those over my body as well. And after the surgery, I was able to like be in the hospital for 2 days and recover, like, there. And then there was another miracle on the other side of that where I was still feeling like for 12 weeks, I still had sensitivity in my intestines. And that was in October. And I was like, "God, I like steak. I like barbecue and brisket, like, and all of those blackened foods, like, are
Combo.
hard." Yeah, I was like, I can, do without them, but I don't want to, Lord. Like, I really want to enjoy those steaks.
Yes.
And so I was like, Lord, please show me, like, heal my body because it's so sensitive.
Mhm.
Still, like, I would need to eat like very easy food, like not a lot of seasoning,
Yes.
nothing that could be like brown too much. It
Mhm.
needs to be like, boiled or like slow cooked,
Mhm.
just like easy for the stomach to process. And January 1st, our church had the 21-day fast, like a lot of churches do, like fast from something.
Yes.
So I just was like, okay, I'm gonna do a like no caffeine and like, do light, maybe vegetables, and just believe the Lord for healing. But I was kind of doing it like nonchalant, like, okay,
Yes.
this is what everybody's doing. I'm gonna do it too. I guess I'll do this. And towards the end of that fast,
Mm.
like almost like towards the last day, God was like, what would mean more to me? What would mean more to you? Like, to give up, not like, because for me, like, food, it's not like as much, but my time
Mm.
is more valuable to me than even food.
I see.
And so for me to wake up early for 1 hour, for example, like early, because I already wake up at 6:30. If I will wake up at 5:30 and then
Yes.
my kids stay up until late, and then my husband's a night owl, he wants to stay up until 1 a.m.
Mhm.
And I would just like, my mind would just go crazy. So he's like, Mary, you've been doing this nonchalantly, but I would love to just have time with you,
Oh,
like one
wow.
on one.
Yes.
And I'm always spending time with him on the go because I have 3 kids, 7, 10, and 12. And it's
Right.
like nonstop, running from place to place, school and work. And so I decided, I'm like, yes, I am going to give you like the first hour in the morning, the
Mhm.
first, and I'm going to wake up early. So I basically, the first morning, I woke up early and my stomach was hurting from the night before. Whatever I ate irritated my stomach. And I was like, I'm not gonna, like, you don't want me to live like this, Lord. You don't want me to be in pain.
Right.
And I got juice from the refrigerator, whatever I could find.
Mhm.
Like, I got like a piece of bread,
Mhm.
little like cracker, and I was like, I took communion to myself.
Mhm.
And I was like, I held it up in the air like Jesus held it in the air, and I like broke it, and I was like,
Broken.
this is your body. It was broken for me for the healing of my body. And
Yes.
I take it, and I take it because you did heal my body. You said that it's for the healing of my body. And then I
Yes.
took the cup and I raised it up, and I was like, you lifted up the cup and you gave thanks. And
Mhm.
I did the same thing that he did in the upper room. And I was like, I give thanks to you for the blood, for your body, and for the forgiveness of sins. Cleanse me. Let your blood cleanse my body.
Mhm.
When I took it, Valerie, I kid you not, I have not had another cramp in my stomach, like
Ever
pain like
since.
that. No, like
Wow.
nothing. And it's been 2 years, 2 years from that moment. It was like done.
And that was the first day that you
The
actually
first
spent the time that
day.
God was asking you.
Yes. And he was just waiting, I think, for obedience, for
Yes.
me to meet him there. like
His turn.
in our own sacrifice. Like, what does it mean to you? What
Mhm.
is sacrificial to you in your season, in that season? And I think from that standpoint, like I just realized like, and that was a huge, I feel like just that communion like was even probably more than the surgery, right? Like because it's like you're living like it was such a blur to go through the surgery, to have that inside, but when you're living in pain,
Mhm.
and it was like this almost like a demand, like, Lord, I've been living, like, and I just stand on your word and, I command my body to line up with the word of God, and I
Mhm.
believe it.
Yeah,
And I was surprised that it worked, like,
and that
and I was
quick.
like, wait, I mean, I did believe it, but when it worked, it was so much more of a testimony. Like I was like, what?
Mhm.
What is that?
Mhm.
Because I was sensitive to like popcorn felt like like knives were ripping my intestines apart, like
My
because of the kernels.
goodness. Wow.
But it's just like I found that in every season that there is something that we can be so grateful.
Yes.
Even no matter how difficult the winter winds are blowing, or, metaphorically, you're in this storm, like
Mhm.
Jesus's disciples, like, Lord, what are you doing?
Mm.
Don't you even care that we're perishing? Like, you don't even care. You're over there sleeping. Are you even alive? Like, do you even care? And he's like, oh, you have little faith. Why did you doubt? Like,
I was discussing this, I think it was yesterday with someone. I can't remember who I was talking to, and we were talking about this very story about Jesus sleeping in the boat, and they wake him up, and as you said, don't you care that we're perishing? Jesus wakes up like, why did you even wake me up? Why would we perish when when I'm in this boat? Don't you just let me sleep? The man never really gotten so much sleep. He always woke up so early and all that, and he was peacefully sleeping. Yeah, I thought it was funny that you would bring this story again.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like in every season, like, and even right now, it's just like with all of the running, like before I came in to do this podcast, like I three different kids in three different sports, like running, running, running from one to the next.
Mhm.
And like my son begged and begged to go to the football to watch football for his seventh grade. And
Mhm.
it's like 15-20 minute drive each way, there and back. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, it's out of the way. I
Mhm.
was like, hey, can you get a ride with your friend? He's like, no, mom, please. I was like, this is going to be a big sacrifice because I knew I have, to come on here and like, okay, I wanted to give myself enough time and I want to give the girls and my daughter have volleyball, another girl have gymnastics and he wants to go to football and he called me after. He's like, "Mom, I forgot my badge and they won't let me inside." So I had to turn around and go back and give it to him. And then I was late for the girls volleyball and then I was late to pick up my daughter from
Mhm.
gymnastics. And
Yes.
it's like, you just, this season of life, it doesn't matter if it's like something so emergency like cancer
Mhm.
or something so little as like the pressures of everyday life. And just, I told my daughter, I was like, mommy's only one person, but we're going to get through. We're both like, stressful, but it's going to happen. Like, we're going to get through. And
Right.
I think that that's what we need every day. At a certain point, I got myself ice cream at Brahms and I rewarded myself for all of that driving. Sometimes we just need some kind of hope because I'm like, as a woman, you feel like sometimes like you just get to the moment, like I feel like tears behind my eyes, like from
Mhm.
just the busyness of life and
Getting to maneuver.
yes, just juggling, or it
Yes.
could be just one thing after another with your husband, or just, one thing after another with a relationship. You just feel overwhelmed. And it's like if we have God as our anchor
Mhm.
and that gratitude that we know that it's going to be okay, then we're like, okay, it is stressful. You admit to it because some people don't feel comfortable sharing with their kids like their struggle. They kind
Yeah.
of express their frustration, but they don't say like, mommy's struggling right now. Like
Mhm.
I feel like there's tears behind my eyes. Let's work together,
Mhm.
because and just being transparent and vulnerable to them.
Mhm.
My daughter was like, "It's okay, mommy." She put her hand like on my cheeks. She's like, "Don't cry. Can I help you, in some way?" And I was like, "No, it's okay. Like, let's just get there because she didn't want to go to Brahms. She wanted to go to Boba." And then another, like, I need to pick up her prescription from the CVS. It's just all of those little things in life that we
Yes.
as human beings, we're just trying to make it through. And it's
Mhm.
okay. It's
Mhm.
okay to say, you know what? It's hard. It's
Mhm.
really hard.
Mhm.
It's a
Wow.
hard time, but we're going to make it through.
We are. We are. I really love it. Thank you so much. And you just and there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack, and I don't
It
think that
is.
we'll be able to unpack a whole lot. But I wanted to bring homage. I think that's how you say in English.
Yeah,
In
homage.
homage to your mother, and she was such a loving soul. And I would have never guessed that. I would have never guessed that she was such a loving person because she never experienced that. Because many times you feel like if somebody is loving because they experience love in their life, so it just like
Mhm.
flows out of them. That's a whole lesson. That's like her life to me is like a masterclass because okay, so Mary comes from the Gary's family. She married into the Novik family, but in our church, Victory Fellowship, everybody knew the Gary's family. It was such a loving family, the family of the 13 kids plus Curtis. And I want to paint this picture because Mary said that, she has an adopted brother and the adopted brother is an African American. And we never saw any difference. He was a Garris. And in fact, whenever they would actually leave the church, he was always with this huge van and they had to wait for everybody because the kids would be jumping over there and they had to gather. But even not just them, but they always brought someone. As she said, they also always helped the homeless and all of that. So we saw God's love firsthand every time the Garris family was around. And not only Mom Garris, but even Papa Garris, it was the same way, right? And the Garris family is a family where whenever you go, you will feel love. Like you would just sit there and bask in
Mm,
this love. It's like a picture of the love that they have for each other, the appreciation that they have for each other, but also the love that they have for other people as well. I remember it was last Thanksgiving. We were invited to your Thanksgiving gathering. And I had a friend. So I went there with her three kids and the kids found their own place. Like they were all comfortable eating and everything. And somebody would talk to them. Then, my friend got, you know, catered to and everybody felt like, so welcome. And at some point they just sit there and start singing songs and it's just such a beautiful environment. And so I just thank God for you guys because you guys, your family to me is a picture of God's love. And the fact that you just said to them, I never knew that your mom never experienced love. For her to hang on to God so much that she got filled with love and was able to actually also express it is so beautiful. And I thank you for quickly mentioning that, but I wanted to really zoom in on that because I wanted to just honor, her memory.
yes.
And she was a beautiful soul. Beautiful, beautiful soul.
She taught me how to love.
Yes, yes. And I know that whenever I go there, no matter who I'm with, will feel the love. You leave out of there just knowing that you have been loved. And it's just beautiful. And
Yes.
so now I wanted to ask you about that. Like, how was it, to live with so many people and even, never knowing who was going to be drafted in the family that was homeless or how was life like?
I mean, it was an adventure. Like I said before, I didn't really know anything different.
Mhm.
So for me, like, I would say there were some people that stayed for like, a few days. I think that a lot of them would start out like even somebody holding up a sign, and my mom would stop by at the red light and the guy would be asking for money. And she's
Mhm.
like, "Do you want to go to church?" And they would either say yes or no, and they would climb in the car and go to church with us. And then she would, like, drop them back off at their spot or whatever. And if they were really wanting to seek God and a better life and, make the next step to like halfway house, basically, we
Mhm.
were that halfway house. And I think, to be transparent,
Mhm.
later on in life, that had caused a lot of people like pain or questioning, like between my siblings. It
Mm.
kind of caused a divide because, my older brother joined the Marines,
Mm.
and he is very like justice oriented, and like, it's not room for a lot of grace.
Mm.
Then you have, like, that not everybody is perfect,
Mm.
including people inside and outside. And I feel like, looking back, my dad would say right now, he's like, I wish I would have been more careful to protect our family first
Mm.
than to invite everyone into the house,
Mm.
because there is, danger in
Mm.
inviting people who are not mentally stable into
Yeah.
the home. And I would say overall, 99% of those people were amazing people that
Mhm.
like that had flaws, but
Mhm.
they were not hurting us. But I would say there was one lady in particular who had 5 kids.
Mhm.
She was like a former witch, and she
Wow.
was a prostitute, and she had a boyfriend that was there. My parents had a rule that you couldn't have a boyfriend. You could either be married or you had to like stay separately in the house. And so
Right.
they both, the boyfriend and the lady, lived with us and her 5 kids. But it caused, I think that was the first like
Wake up
like,
call.
what is this? The kids were all like starting to be teenagers. I was probably like 12 at the time. My brother like 13, another brother like 16, was
Mhm.
my oldest brother was 16. But through that experience, like, it opened up the like voodoo into the house. And I think that there was like a door for the devil to enter in, like, in
Mhm.
that way, because she was very sneaky and
Mhm.
still like trying to do everything that she wanted to do.
Mm.
And like, all the boys in our family started dating her girls, and then she was like manipulating and everything. So it's like, you have to be very careful. And we found out later on that, like, there was things that she was going around in the neighborhood, doing her thing because she was a prostitute before, and her boyfriend ended up being her pimp. So it was like, and my parents were so naive in a
Oh
certain
my
way
goodness.
that, like, they were not even aware. The people would come home and they would act like, "Oh no, Mama Lynn, everything is fine, everything is good, like, life is good, and I'm sorry, like, but we weren't doing anything, like, it's just like a sneaky kid." But that kind of set the tone when everybody was entering into that teenage years, almost
Mhm.
like for a spirit of rebellion. And like, a lot of us started to smoke, started to drink, and
Wow.
it was like a extremely, extremely difficult spiritual time for
Mm.
us during that. Like, I think that God made certain events happen. Like, her daughter actually got attacked by a Rottweiler, and had her head was ripped, like, she had to get 32 stitches. And I actually rescued her from like the hands of, like, I ran into the water, basically. Was in the We were all swimming in the Mississippi River like crazy wild kids, and the little boy was walking his Rottweiler along the bank of the river,
Yes.
and the dog wanted to go run in the river. But I think that he somehow like got stirred up or something, and something, he seemed like he was a nice dog, but
Mhm.
being in that maybe protective Rottweiler like family, he just snapped, and
Mhm.
he just attacked the first thing that he saw, and it was this little girl. So anyway, through that situation, like, the daughter ended up like having the family had a lawsuit with that other family, and they ended up getting money, and they ended up moving out of the house.
Mm.
But like, and God has everything, like, there's certain things that Satan opens the door, like, through like things that we allow. And there's other things that God is like, my hands are tied in a certain way because you're allowing these things to happen.
Mm.
And this is where being naive is not like an excuse. I always say be sober minded.
Mhm.
And that means like in your physical, like with alcohol, for example, and just with awareness. Don't be foolish.
Mhm.
Like be aware and alert of the things
Mhm.
around you and the dangers and
Mhm.
take steps, like take the risk with caution, like
Yes.
knowing your responsibility as the daughter and son of God,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And and that you have children that you're first and foremost to protect. So
Mm.
I think that in hindsight, my dad would always say, like, I just wish that I could go back and fix that in hindsight, but
Mhm.
oh, hindsight is the best sight for all of us, right? And any parent wants to protect their children and not live with that hanging over their head, but they
Mhm.
do the best that they could, right? They grew up in the hippie movement. A lot of the preachers were saying, like, if you took in the homeless, you took in me. If you, I was in prison and you came and visited me,
Mhm.
like all of those scriptures. And my mom took that literally and
Mm.
she really fought for that. And so
Wow.
I believe that God has rewarded all of her goodness.
Mhm.
And if I could say anything, it's is a balance. You really have to constantly be asking God, is this where you want me? Do you want this person to be, in my home,
Yes.
under in my temple?
Yes.
This is my temple.
Right.
And this is like as a priest of the home,
Mm.
you're first and foremost to cover your home.
Mhm.
And anyone that you invite, you're inviting, that presence. And
Mhm.
yes, you have a certain covering and you can plead the blood, like, when you have visitors and stuff like that.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
you just need to be aware.
Yeah, no, that's wise. I'm glad, that we spoke about balance, of course, because it's true. There's some people that you can and that you are ordained to, help from within, and some you can help different kind of ways.
Yeah. Like if you want to support homeless ministries or halfway shelters and you feel like, well, God did say that. God did command us. And
Right.
and how my husband and I view our giving, because we do know that there's multiple things that we would talk about, but
Mhm.
my husband and I being, business in business, and me working for my husband and my husband owning the business. And then we scaled our
Mhm.
business to 5 locations and then all of Canada. So we are all about generosity
Mhm.
and about giving,
Mhm.
because that is a big part of business in the kingdom.
Right.
And one of the biggest things is like that we want to give where we want to see change.
Mm.
So if you what you support and where you want to see change
Mhm.
is where you should put your money. You put your money where your mouth is.
Mhm.
Right? And
Yes.
so we are we against abortion? Do you give to people that are against abortion? Do you
Mhm.
give to communities? If you're not out there marching, you don't have the time to be out there marching and things like that, but do you give to people who provide ultrasounds? Like
Mhm.
we found, like Focus on the Family. Okay, they're the biggest like ministry that helps families. We're all
Mhm.
about like conservative beliefs in the family. Okay, we're going
Mhm.
to give to that ministry because we know that they help so many
Mhm.
thousands of families. And then recently I told my husband, I was like, well, I wasn't sure of an exact homeless ministry, but I really felt a burden that we should be helping the homeless
Yes.
and helping them to get off the street and
Mhm.
to be in homes and to provide like homes in our own way. And
Right.
so we're giving now towards like a homeless ministry. And
Mhm.
then the same thing, like he's from Belarus, so he knows the difficulties that the pastors face over there and how little, like they none of them work, and
Mhm.
yet they don't get any salary. They're
Right.
they're paid by donations,
Mm.
like even just for gas or
Mhm.
anything. They're so
Mhm.
poor. But he has a heart for that. So it's like give where you want to see the change or where you believe. And
Mhm.
according to like how God allows you. And as you
Yes.
give to those areas, God will bless you back in those areas. You
Yeah.
give to family, you're
Mhm.
gonna reap to family,
Wow.
right?
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So another thing, I mean, you spoke about a lot of things. Something that I really loved was how you were saying that God had prepared, your husband just for you. How is there anything that you did to prepare for that? Was there like certain type of prayers that you made for you to be able to reap such a blessing in your life?
I don't think that there's anything like specific. Like, I mean, I did pray, like,
Mhm.
in general for
Mhm.
my husband.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say, like, I mean, I always had it in my mind, but it was like I actually was approached by another gentleman, like, I was dating another gentleman, like, 2 years before that, a year and a half before, and
Mhm.
I really thought that he was going to be my husband.
Mhm.
And I was like, "This is the first one that I'm, like, really careful. We didn't kiss, like, we were, like, doing it the right Christian way, like, and not to say that, like, kissing is wrong or anything, but we had I was not, like, pure, like, in that way. I had not, like, saved myself because I, like, went into rebellion when I was, like, 14, like, trying
Mhm.
to find validation, trying to find love,
Mhm.
chasing after, everyone's praise and affirmation. And, you
Mm.
know, my love language is words of affirmation. So when people would say, like, oh, you're so nice, you're so
Mhm.
beautiful, whether that's a male or a female, and from a big family and stuff, that awareness that you crave those things
Mhm.
is you only receive power when you become aware that,
Mm.
and you can fix that,
Mhm.
and realize that you don't need to get it from the world, you get it from God.
Mhm.
And so, like, through those years, like 14, I went on a mission trip when I was 16. I came back, met this young man, and I thought, like, man, he's the one because, we're just doing everything right. And, just like maybe 2 months in, it was like, we started to argue about Christianity. And he was saying, like, well, I believe that you need to, if, you shouldn't wear makeup, you shouldn't cut your hair, United Pentecostal, like, religion. And I didn't know, like, what that was because I
Mhm.
was raised more in a non denominational background. You just believe based on scripture and you just read and you love the Lord, right? And you
And
just
you
believe
were
it.
you were a girly girl. You loved makeup and all that.
Yes. Yes, I did, even from a young age, like, I love
Right.
makeup, I love dressing up, I love
Right.
heels, I
I
love,
remember.
like, looking good, like, I
Yes.
wanted to take care of myself. And, and when he was digging into that, and he gave me this book about, like, that if you don't speak in tongues, then you're not really saved, and that you're not going to heaven unless you speak in tongues. And I was like, "This is just wrong." Like, I mean, I believe that this is a gift from God, but if you don't speak in tongues, you're going to heaven. Like, I know so many people who love the Lord, and, like, I started to like argue with him, and we broke up because of that difference. And I was like, "Lord, why? Out of all things, out of, like, so many things that you can break up, why would we break up over you? Over disagreement
Right?
about you?"
Hmm.
And so I actually cried so many times just, like, because I was like, "He's so nice. He's so cute," like, I think, like, who else could there be, like, I just couldn't even think in my little New Orleans mind,
Right.
that anybody else was even out there. Like, I was
Yeah.
not thinking exotic. And, but I would just pray. I'm like, "God, you know the beginning from the end." And I was even praying, even with a subconscious motive, like, that God's gonna bring him back to me, like, the same one. I was just so stubborn in my
God's gonna
mind.
change him. He's gonna align to my views, and he's we're gonna be
Exactly.
together.
God's gonna really get him saved and set him free from religion, like, what was funny is, like, in 2005, Hurricane Katrina happened right before I went on a missions trip to Bulgaria, Turkey, and Greece with Georgie and Banov. Saw this gentleman again, and it was like he tried one more time so hard like, to convince me so that he could be back together with me. But I had to believe him if, like, if he would be together. And I was like, I just can't believe this. Like, if you want to be with me and, like, believe like this, like, I'm not going to have that down my throat. And so
Right.
we, like, kind of, I was able to kind of, I guess, cut the ties, like,
Yes.
emotionally, and then went on this missions trip in August, early August of 2005.
Hmm.
And it had been a year before that we had actually dated, but it was like a year later he came back, and then I was like, "Okay, no, that door is shut." Went
Sure.
on the missions trip, and 2 weeks later I met my husband. And so
Mm.
I was like, looking back, I'm like, imagine if I would have settled, if I would be like, "No, I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna, get him to change later." Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this what I wanted it to be.
Mhm.
I would have missed like this incredible man. Like, I just could never imagine that he ever could exist.
Mhm.
And God made a whole hurricane happen and made my sister meet his brother as well, which is totally supernatural for even us to meet. So I feel like,
Right.
there was nothing really that I did on my own. God just had mercy on my soul
Yeah.
and
Those were
knew the future because I feel like Andre comes from a priesthood family. He's like third generation or fourth generation Christian, but they were like Baptist before, and then like through just prayer and underground church and everything, like when they prayed overnight,
Mhm.
God baptized them with the Holy Spirit, just
Mm.
like the upper room when they were Baptist. And it
Wow.
was like when you believe in the Lord and you're seeking God with all of your heart,
Mhm.
it's like he wants to like give you this gift, that's like just not that they just speak all the time, but it's like God wants you to overflow in his goodness. And as you seek the Lord, he just rewards you. And some of us just came along and just undeservedly by his mercy and grace, like, we were grafted in, you know?
Grafted in.
I was like, I'm so grateful because I look back and we're like, man, where would we be if we would still be in New Orleans?
Mm.
What life would we have, Valerie?
Mhm.
Where would we be? Who would we be married to? What kind of life would we have? You
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And I'm just grateful like for the journey that God brought me on. And like I can't wait for the future because the future is so bright. The rest is the future.
I love it. I love it. The rest, I'm definitely going to use that. The rest is the future. And yes, God's ways, he orchestrates his ways in a manner that we don't always foresee. When you're talking about Katrina is also one of the things that facilitated me going to dental school because actually me going to go to the University of Tennessee, I was actually extended, admission because I was coming from New Orleans with
Wow.
having been affected by Katrina. So, even these difficult seasons, there's always something, as you said, to be grateful for. Yeah,
Yes.
and the future is the present. And the rest is the future. And
Yes.
it's gonna keep unfolding. It's gonna keep unfolding. Well, this
Yes.
was beautiful. I know that we have so much more to talk about, and I would absolutely love to invite you over again.
Of course. I'd love to anytime. I know we got to talk about the future.
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to speak with you or to work with you, how can they do that?
Uh,
What are some of the things that you're working on, like in a brief time? Can you
yeah.
share with us?
I mean, what I'm working on in the future is my husband and I have, because we own a business that does event merchandising, we feel like it's like God has brought us into a season where we would love to teach others what it means to be kingdom business leaders and
Mm-hmm.
how they can carry the kingdom into their business.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've just launched and are a part of a new ministry where we're teaching others like starting in Asia
Mm-hmm.
just like outside of the box, of course, we love local leaders and want to be involved as much as possible here, but God opened up the door in Asia for us to kind of see that there's not really a lot of resources in Asia for business owners to learn what does it mean to sow into kingdom? What does it mean to live kingdom through and in their business? What does it mean to scale? Like God wants us to be faithful with the talents that He's given us and grow them to full capacity.
Right.
And what does that look like in ministry? Do I need to give up my business to have ministry?
Mm-hmm.
And, to us, no, it doesn't mean to give up the business. It means to be faithful and to use it as a funnel and to teach others what you're learning. It's
Yes.
just sharing your testimony. And that's what we want to do with other business leaders is just take them along the ride and invite anyone who owns a business to come
Mm-hmm.
alongside of us in the future So we're just paving the ground. This is the first year, November 20th. We're going for the first time to Indonesia and Malaysia for business conference that's going to have like 5 sessions. So I'm excited to do that, and then we can come on and share how it went, and
Yes.
we look forward to creating a system where we can help others develop like a process on kingdom business.
hmm And so this is a way for businesses to actually purpose the kingdom.
Yes, correct.
Wonderful. So if somebody wanted to work with you, how can they do that? Or if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
I would say probably Instagram is the easiest. That's what I check the most.
Mm.
Just find me on Mary Novik, at Mary Novik. My family's picture is on there. And I'd love to talk with you and learn more and invite you to come alongside the journey or just hear your story because I'm a people person. I just love people and I believe loving God and loving others is all that God wants us to do, and just to be faithful in the season that we are in, to be the most fruitful as God calls us in every season to bear fruit.
It sums it up because he says to love him, love your God with all your heart, with all your strength, and also to love your neighbor as yourself.
Mhm.
So yeah, loving people, it all boils down to that.
Yeah. Yes.
With love, yeah. All
I'm
right,
so
well, thank
proud of
you.
you, Valerie. I'm so proud of you to see everything, because I've known you since I was a child, since I was 13 in Bernie Moore's youth group in in Victory Fellowship Church.
Mhm.
And what's crazy is that, you know, Bernie was our youth pastor, right? Like at first, before you even went off to school, and now his daughter is the youth pastor for my son.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's crazy that it's went full circle, and you just never know what God has. God just continues to amaze all of us. I'm so proud of you and so grateful for your life. We
Well,
love you
thank
so
you.
much.
You took me off guard. I didn't quite expect that. Thank you so much. I just remember, us hanging out and, trying to comfort you sometimes. And I really also admire what God has been doing through your life. You have become such a wonderful woman, and so impactful. So it's really beautiful to see. Beautiful to see.
Thank you.
Thank you
I'm
so much.
glad to be sisters in the kingdom and to be forever just glorifying God and just lifting up, the kingdom together.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that would be the end of our episode. I learned a lot. I didn't know you had cancer. There was a lot of good lessons to be taken, to shift the way we do things, even how we express love, with our fellow men or with our neighbors. Thank you so much for everything that you shared. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. And until we meet next time, you be blessed. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Science of Gratitude podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share it, and leave us a review. Your support helps us keep spreading the power of gratitude. And until next time, stay grateful. God bless you.